Hello everyone and welcome back to another DC Universe miniature game battle report, and today we have a movie/TV themed Justice League team going up against the Yellow Lanterns. A pure 100% Yellow Lanterns list, so this will be quite interesting. Just wanting to wreck the table today to get it cleared, to try out some new scenery and whatnot for a table going forwards. So what better way to do that than have superheroes and supervillains throw stuff at each other. So this is the table layout we're using. Let's go over the teams so we can get started. So here is our Yellow Lantern list. I think they come to 56 power levels, whereas the heroes is either 55 or 57. There's a 1 level difference between the two, and neither of them get quite to 60. It would have been closer. Yeah, I think they're 57. Would have been a little bit closer if the new Sinestro was here, but this is just the old Sinestro taking the lead. And then we have the Yellow Lanterns. So from left to right, we have Becca. She's a brawler, same power level as Sinestro. At the back there, with the Book of Parallax, we have Lissa. She has an 8-inch aura bubble, where Yellow Lanterns activating within that bubble spend 1 less power on powers that cost at least 1, or things that cost at least 1 power. Our Killo, he's their tough guy who can lower his defense to get even stronger. And then this is, I'm going to have to cheat and look at his card, Romat Rue, who's slightly stealthy, can turn himself invisible. They all have phase shift, so they can all go through scenery, and they all have power thief as well, so if they do damage, they can steal some power from the person they're smacking. And here is the Justice League list, again based mostly around the DC sort of cinematic universe. Whether or not it's still a thing or not, who knows, but I had to mix in a little bit of the TV shows connected to them as well, because we don't have the Jason Momoa Aquaman in the studio. So filling in, we have the Green Arrow based on the Arrow TV show, usable in Batman and this, and he's better than just the Green Arrow is usable only in DC. We've got the Ben Affleck Batman not wearing his bat armor, the Henry Cavill Superman, the Wonder Woman that was part of the pack that came with the Ben Affleck Batman in armor and this Superman. Not sure if it's meant to be Gal Gadot, but whatever. And then the Ezra Miller Flash at the back there as well. So we are all set up at deployment and good to go, because we're very eager to get destroying stuff. The Justice League are on your left, the Yellow Lanterns are on your right. And we have to go over the scenario. The scenario, we're not actually doing a specific one from the book. This is pure destruction. So it's going to be low scoring, but the only scoring condition is 1 victory point for incapacitating each enemy. So, because both teams have 5 each, I think, 2, 4, 5, yep, 2, 4, 5. So, same number of victory points available for each side. Obviously some are weaker than others, but as weak as Green Arrow might be, they also have Superman, who can hopefully balance out that kind of power difference or HP deficit. So everyone's been given their starting power. I forgot to mention Sinestro has leadership 4 inches, so the people who are lower power level than him, which is everyone except Becca, they will get 1 extra power if they activate within 4 of him, so that's why he's up there with them on the building. Speaking of which, Becca is down there by herself with a massive 11 power as long as she's healthy. And then most of the Justice League in a line here, Superman's here, and then round the corner of the building, Wonder Woman has deployed on that side. So all that's left to do is shake up the bag. Blue for Justice League, red for the Yellow Lanterns, because there is no yellow dice in the studio. It doesn't seem like a colour most people would buy. And it's going to be the Justice League going first. So Superman got the game started and paid 3 to fly down here next to the destroyed building that was here. He picked up half of it for 3 power to throw it. He's strength 6, so he can throw it 12, so he can basically cover the whole table if he moves up to the middle point. He chucked it at Becca. She dodged it, though. As it turns out, everyone except Sinestro actually has pretty decent agility. So she took no damage from that, so he just did 2 more power on a heat vision, leaving him with 2 power for defense. That got through and actually critted. He rolled 2 6s. Now, she did spend 1 power, so she's down to 10 to buffer energy defense, but it was not good enough. Romat Rue activated first for the Green Lanterns, Yellow Lanterns. Get ready for that happening a lot, incidentally. The Yellow Lanterns, and he started next to Sinestro, so he got 1 bonus power. So it only cost him 2 technically, because he spent that free 1 to fly. He flew down here for cover and then spent 3 more power on Disappear, which he can do once per turn. It gives him Invisible, and Invisible means, in this game anyway, that you have to be within 1 to see him. Oh, I did also forget to mention for Superman's turn that Superman is brutal, which means that if you score a crit you usually get push as well, but it's only on melee attacks, it doesn't count ranged attacks. So that's why Becca is still where she was. Ben Affleck Batman activated next for the Justice League, and sadly this is one of those Batman miniatures for the DC game anyway, where his Batclaw is a once per game rather than a once per turn, which really sucks. So he just walked 8 inches, which got him to the crater where that building used to be. He's banking a bunch of power, there's nothing else he can do. Now he did have Infiltrator, which I totally forgot about, which means he could have deployed basically anywhere, but being close to a bunch of Yellow Lanterns would have been suicide, so honestly he still probably would have deployed in the 8 inches of deployment I gave both sides. Lyssa Drac was next up for the Yellow Lanterns, getting 1 bonus power for starting within 4 inches of Sinestro. She flew down here to go after Superman. She overloaded a Yellow Blast, and also she is obviously within her own aura, and it does specify powers and attacks. It doesn't mean like the ability to fly, for instance. But she did a Yellow Blast, which was reduced in 1 or by 1 by the book that she's holding. Buffed back up by 1 because she overloaded it. Superman buffed his energy defense. She can also, all the Yellow Lanterns can change their nature of an attack once per turn to mental rather than energy. Doesn't matter in Superman's case, he has the same. I guess technically it would have had it got through because he has resistance to energy damage, not mental damage, but as you can see there's no red dice, so nothing got through. She then overloaded her once per game Fear Overwhelm, and that really stung that it did not get through Superman's defense. So unfortunately she's banked 1 power and didn't achieve too much. Wonder Woman activated and ran forwards 9 inches before spending 3 power on a super jump, which made her leap down and get into base to base with Lyssa there. Now rather than do her once per turn lethal blow, which is a 4 power for 3 damage with a potential more damage on crit, she opted instead to overload her basic Sword of Athena, which is 1 less damage, has irresistible, but is also magic type, which is lower defense for everybody, I think, literally everybody on the table. So she did that, also no buffing defense, it got through, and typically that did crit, so that means if she had done lethal blow it would have done 6 damage, but 3 still isn't too bad. I think it puts Lyssa 3 away from dropping down to her pale zone. Sinestro himself decided it was time to take to the action. He flew down here and then used a blunt instrument on Batman. It's strength 4 free grab, so you can still technically do another grab because it's a blunt instrument grab on a person or scenery. He picked Batman up, chucked him into the rock there, and as I said, he counts as strength 4, so it gets 3 damage through. He then did a Yellow Blast, but did it on Superman because it is actually an explosion, and he didn't want to get caught in his own blast. Superman did not manage to stop the damage getting through. It would do 3 damage, but he blocks energy, and it was kept his energy because otherwise Batman would probably have been totally fine. But he passed his agility roll regardless, half damage rounding down, so 1 more damage there. So 4 in total to Batman, 1 to Superman. Sinestro, it's actually not tapped with power because I just realised he should also steal power from Batman, so he should still have 1 power left. Green Arrow activated, and unfortunately his hook arrow is also a once per game, much like the grapple Batman has, so he ran forwards 8 inches, but he has 12 inches on his ranged attacks though, so more than enough. He overloaded a taser arrow, which is a once per turn, into Sinestro, who used the power he stole from Batman to buff his energy defense, but it still got through for 2 damage. It would have sapped power from him as well. He then shot a overloaded standard arrow, which is just 1 damage if it had gotten through, but Sinestro fully blocked it, or maybe caught it out there and tossed it away all cool like, who knows. Second last activation for turn 1 for the Yellow Lanterns was our Kilo, and Green Lantern thought he was safe, but thanks to phase shift and flying 13 inches, he just phased through the building there, popped out on that side, which put him within range to then spend his 6 power he had left over, 3 of which on a Yellow Blast that got through on Oliver for 3 damage. Then he just tried an offensive construct, which is a close combat attack, but it has a 6-inch range or 8-inch range. It's to, demonstrate isn't the word, to simulate, that's the word, simulate them creating a shape with the ring and then kind of like swinging it, I guess. But that was a double 1 on that roll, so Oliver got very lucky there because he does not have a lot of HP. So the Flash was last to go in Battle Round 1 for the Justice League, although first a little correction, Power Thief only kicks in on attacks that count as close combat. So that was done a little bit wrong a little bit earlier when Sinestro stole 1 power from Batman. Either way though, classic turn 1 play for the Flash. He's paid 2 power to move a massive 15. He shot into the middle of the table where Sinestro was, and then spent 6, 5 plus 1 on an overloaded once per game supermass critical punch. Got him right in the gut, pushed him back 3 inches, would have sapped some power from him, and did a massive 4 damage. So now it is over to Becca, who is 1 power down from defending herself earlier, to end off the turn. So Becca smelt weakness. She spent 3 to fly 13, right down there, and then she did her once per game Fear Overwhelm, overloaded it, leaving her with 2 power to do nothing with. And unlike when Lissa used her once per game, that one got through, and got through with a crit. So it did 5 damage. 1 more damage to Oliver would put him in his blue zone. He's 1 away from it. He's very, very hurt. The Justice League better hope they get first activation next turn, or he's going to do nothing. So then Battle Round 1, Oliver is hanging on by a thread, although I would say in general more damage was done by the Justice League. It's just the Yellow Lanterns focused the weakest member. Well, yeah, HP wise he is weaker than Batman. Offensively though he can do more damage, so maybe it is best they focused on... Did I call him Green Lantern there? It's going to keep happening. They're too similarly named. The branding is murky. Anyway, that is the end of Battle Round 1 with no points scored by either side. And with that we are going into Battle Round 2. So top of Round 2, everyone has been given their power, as you can hopefully see. Forgot to mention, but Becca has regeneration. She and Flash I think are the only ones with regen on the field, so she has healed 1 of the 3 points of damage she took. But it just comes down to who's going first, and I imagine if this ain't a blue dice, poor Green Arrow. Although if he's removed, hey, I won't have to keep confusing his name with Green Lantern when I'm talking about what happens, so there is that. Let's see, it's going to be... Oh, if I can actually grab something in here. There we go. Oh, he is actually going to get a turn. So of course Oliver activated, and you can already tell by the number of red dice on the table, he is going down swinging. He did his once per game explosive arrow on Becca. He overloaded it, got through against her for 3, it counts as energy, and it explodes in 3 inches, so it caught Sinestro and Arkillo, both of whom failed their agility rolls and took 3 damage each as well. He then shot a taser arrow for 2, it got through for 2 damage, and then he spent his final 3 power to retreat 12 inches with his once per game hook arrow over here, just to make whoever kills him have to chase him down to the bottom of the table here. But if that is the end of him, he certainly made his mark before that happens. Becca activated first for the Yellow Lanterns, and she wanted revenge. I forgot to mention, but she's also now in her pale zone, and so is Sinestro. So she spent 3 to fly down here, got as close as she could, and then she did 2 overloaded yellow constructs, which she can do as many times as she wants. Sorry, 1 was overloaded, 1 was not. They both got through for 2 damage base each, and that is exactly enough that Oliver is down. But at least he did well before that happened. That is, however, the first victory point to the Yellow Lanterns. Superman activated next for the Justice League and had pretty much the strongest turn he's capable of having. He paid 1, he was up there by the rock, he paid 1 to walk 4 into the crater, right into base to base with Sinestro. He did his once per game Super Punch, which has push 6 on it. He overloaded it, it got through for 5 damage and punched Sinestro all the way back here into Arkillo. He then did his other once per game for the final 3 power he had, which is Frost Breath. It sapped power, 1 power from Sinestro and Arkillo, did 2 damage to each of them because they both failed their agility roll, and that 7 damage is actually enough that Sinestro is out of there. He had 1 less than that HP remaining, so the Yellow Lanterns have lost their leader. So Arkillo activated, turned him slightly, but he did actually just stay still on his turn. He did his once per game Fear Overwhelm, which they all have, on Batman. And this Batman actually, against ranged attacks, energy ranged attacks, has resistance 1. He buffed his energy defense as well. The Fear Overwhelm still went through for 4 damage. It would get brought down by 2-3, because of his 1 energy resistance. However, it was also a crit, which bumped it back up to the 4 damage, putting him in his pale zone. And he is 4 health away from his blue zone. Then he did just offensive construct after that, and that did not get through his buffed energy defense. So it was Batman who activated next, however. First of all, just covering something about Arkillo in case you are curious and are aware of his card. He does have a passive called Arkillo's Might, I think it is. He can just activate, it doesn't even cost anything, for +1 to damage, +2 to his attack stat, making it easier to land hits and do more damage. The downside of that, though, is he suffers -2 to all defenses, and it's not even till the end of the turn, it's until he next activates. So given that he's surrounded by enemies that are very powerful, i.e. the Man of Steel, and Flash can do some damage as well, and Wonder Woman is pretty close by, that's why he didn't do it, just in case you're curious. So anyway, Batman activated, he spent 2 to walk 8 into base-to-base with Lissa, then overloaded his once per game sneak attack, and got through her physical defense, which she did try and buff, for 3 damage. She's also now in her pale zone, just. So Lissa activated next with the Yellow Lantern. She stayed where she was and unleashed fury upon Bruce Wayne. She did offensive construct on him, overloaded, and remember she is stealing power, so he just used his 1 power to buff defense because she would have taken it otherwise. And she's also got her book buff, so her powers cost 1 less. Got him for 3 damage, then did an offensive construct to pick him up and throw him into that same rock. Overloaded that to make sure it got through as well, and it did. So Bruce has taken 6 damage, put him in his blue zone, and he immediately rolled double 8s on his staying conscious check. So he is very, very unconscious, and that does not bode well because he has like 3 HP left. Wonder Woman activated and did her once per game Amazon Fury, which is a 2-inch aura around her, which reminds me it should have actually destroyed some scenery around her as well. Shaking the ground with her mystic attack, it got through on Lissa, who failed her agility roll and took a full 5 damage, and then she ended up over there because she then spent her remaining 4 power on a grab and throw, chucked Lissa into the car for another 4 damage because it's strength -1, and if we lean in here, that is more than enough that her and her Book of Parallax are actually dead, so the Justice League are up 2 to 1. Romat Rue, who had been sneakily still hiding behind there, moved up over here. He did eventually spend all his power, he had 3 left, but actually no, he should still have 1 left because I forgot Power Thief again. Oh wait, no, he wasn't close combat though. He did his Yellow Blast on Batman, who was unconscious and -2 to defenses in total. 3 damage. That's because of a crit, because his energy resistance presumably still kicks in even if he's unconscious, which would bring it down to 2, but the crit brought it back up to 3, and that was enough exactly that Romat Rue has evened things up at 2 apiece. So he should technically still have 1 power because of the... No. Again, I keep forgetting because Blunt Instrument, or their Yellow Construct, is a ranged physical attack. Yellow Blast is a ranged range attack. And Power Thief only kicks in if it counts as a melee attack. It's a little confusing. Either way, he spent 3 power to disappear again, so he counts as invisible. So thanks to everyone dying, the Flash is the final activation of Battle Round 2. He technically stayed where he was, although they did some movement. He did an overloaded kinetic lightning, which counts as a ranged attack. Then he did an overloaded charge, which counts as a physical attack with range 4. Again, it can sometimes get a little confusing with the way that's classified. He did both of them into Arkillo. Both of them got through, so the kinetic lightning did 3. The charge would have done 2 up to 3 because he critted, back down to 2 because Arkillo resists 1 to physical. The kinetic lightning is energy, so that's why that didn't get reduced. That does put him in his pale zone though, so he's -1 attack now, and with that we're at the end of the round. So this could end up just being a 3-turn game with how murdery everything's got, but honestly that's the fun part. No knockout checks to do or anything like that, or wake-up checks I should say, because everyone who was knocked out is also dead, which is unhealthy as I understand it. So we are just going straight into Battle Round 3. The Yellow Lanterns are looking in a rough spot given that Superman and Wonder Woman are both unhurt. So is the Flash, and the only thing to mention is Becca will heal 1 HP from her regeneration. Top of round 3, and there's only 3 miniatures left per side. They've all been given power. Worth mentioning, Becca regenerating that 1 HP put her back in the healthy part of her health bar, which is important to her because that gives her +2 power. That's what gives her 11 power to play with rather than 9. So she has that 11 power. Arkillo's got the 8, so does Romat Rue, and 9, 9, 10 for the survivors of Justice League. So all that remains to be seen is who's going first, and it's very, very likely to be the Yellow Lanterns. They got a little bit screwed on that first activation last turn, so let's see. The dice are eluding my hand again. I swear they're in there. There, I grabbed one. It's okay. It's actually the Justice League going first again. That's very Superman saw the turn started for the Justice League. He paid 2
to walk into base to base with our Kilo. He tried a super punch for 4 and then did not get through his buff defense. He paid 1 to buff it. So then he did an overloaded grab and throw, picked our Kilo up and chucked him into Ramaturu. So he takes damage equal to the strength of the thrower -1, which would normally be 5, but he further resists physical, so it's down to 4. Ramaturu failed his agility roll and took 2. Can I just say I feel like it's a mistake that on our Kilo's card he counts as size 2, when every other normal size human on the table is size 2. He should definitely be size 3, but oh well. So our Kilo is getting dangerously low on health, so he activated next. His blue zone is actually only 2 pips of health, so his blue zone is tiny, but he's getting near it. So he stayed where he was. He did 2 overloaded yellow constructs against the Flash, who didn't bother buffing his defense because he can take it because he's at full health. One got through for 2 damage, the other did not, so not so great there. So it was a total repeat of the last turn the Flash had. Again, he did an overloaded kinetic lightning followed by an overloaded charge. Both into our Kilo, they both got through for 4 damage. That's exactly enough that the large man, who is size 2 for some reason, is down, making it 3-2 in the Justice League's favour. And he banked 3 power for defense afterwards. Ramaturu activated and walked up to the Flash. Now, he does have the Fear Overwhelm that everybody else had, but he's got a once per game unique of his own because he is a sneaky assassin. So he has a once per game called Assassin Strike. He did it on the Flash, and as you can see, it is a massive 6 damage, and that's not even on a crit. So the Flash took 6 damage from that. He was doing fine, and then all of a sudden, not so much. He's in the middle of his Pale Zone. Already the last turn in Battle Round 3 for the Justice League, Wonder Woman ran up 9 inches to Ramaturu, then did, without overloading either of them, a critical blow attempt and then a Sword of Athena, which was 7 power in total. The critical blow failed. Sword of Athena going against Magic, it got through for 2 damage. He did try and buff his defense against the critical blow. It wasn't necessary as it turns out, but he did that. So now it's over to Becca to end off the turn. So Becca flew up here behind Superman, used blunt instruments to count his strength 4 to pick him up and chuck him. Did so, would have done 3 damage because of her strength -1, but he has resist physical 2, so only did 1 damage to him. The Flash failed his agility roll, though Superman flew into him for 2 damage. She then tried to do a yellow blast on the Flash, which would have caused a 3-inch explosion and caught literally everyone, including Ramaturu, but would have caught everyone. However, the rules for explosive attacks say you have to successfully hit the initial target. Flash buffed his energy defense and she failed to exceed his defense. So unfortunately that was it. At the end of Battle Round 3, everyone left on the table is staying conscious. The Flash and Becca have both regened 1 HP as well, but there's nothing much else to cover. I think the writing might be on the wall for the Yellow Lanterns, but we're still going to play a turn 4, or at least part of it, to see what happens. So top of turn 4, everyone has been given their power, which you can hopefully see there, and there's no need for ceremony with the bag, because it can only be the Yellow Lanterns finally taking a first activation. This will be very decisive, I think. So of the 2 surviving Yellow Lanterns, Ramaturu activated, he backed up for 2 power, then he did his Fear Overwhelm once per game on the Flash, and he changed it to mental as well, because this Flash doesn't have that great mental defense. Got through against him for 4. He then tried to do a yellow blast, which would have caused an explosion to catch the other 2 as well. However, the buffed energy defense of the Flash blocked it all. The 4 damage, however, was enough to put him in his blue zone, and he failed his stay awake check, so the Flash has passed out. Now, he still could potentially activate this turn, but if you attempt to wake him up and he fails, you've wasted your activation. So it was Superman who activated, spent 2 to walk into base to base with Becca. Becca spent 2 power on a once per game that all the Yellow Lanterns have called Energy Field. Green Lanterns have it as well. I think the Blue Lantern does too. It's plus 2 resistance to physical and energy until the end of the turn. Actually, is it the end of the turn or is it the end of the activation in which you use it? It is end of the round, so she's become tanky for the round. Superman picked her up and chucked her, so normally that would do 5 damage, but reduced by 2 because she's now physical resistance 2. He then shot eye lasers at her, which would have been reduced to 0, but he actually got a crit. So the 3 damage got reduced to 1 damage. She's still hurting. She's got 6 HP left, but she is going to be tanky until the end of the round. Becca moved up behind the unconscious Flash, almost called him Flag, used an offensive construct, smacked him for 2 damage, and the Flash is down, which actually means that everything is evened up, 3 apiece, victory points wise. She banked 2 power for defense, and it's over to Wonder Woman to end the turn as someone comes to my door, so good timing. Wonder Woman paid 1 to walk into base to base with Becca, then did 2 overloaded Sword of Athena magic attacks, and more importantly, it has Irresistible, so it ignores her buffed resistance. Both got through, and one of which also had a crit, for a total of 5 damage, leaving Becca on exactly 1 HP. So she is alive, and she passed her consciousness check. That said though, I think we're right at the end of the round. It is even, so I guess we should go into battle round 5 to see what happens. So at the end of battle round 4, Becca stayed conscious again, because you have to check when you first go into blue zone and then at the end of a turn. So she did stay conscious, and she's regened 1 HP, so she's at 2 HP. And we already know they're getting first activation, so I guess there is technically a chance, although Superman and Wonder Woman, Superman's lost 2 HP, Wonder Woman's not lost any. But hey, let's just see what happens, I guess. So the rare turn 5, everyone's been given power, and again, we already know it is the Yellow Lanterns taking first activation, so it's just whether or not Becca can somehow cause a lot of damage. I guess we'll see. So Becca did a blunt instrument grab and throw on Wonder Woman, picked her up, chucked her at strength 4. She did not evade the throw, so she took strength -1, took 3 damage. Superman takes no damage from the impact because she's size 2. She then tried to follow that up with a yellow blast, overloaded, and sadly it did not get through Wonder Woman's defense, so no explosion to catch Superman. 3 damage doesn't really do much, but you know, it's something. They went down swinging. So it's pretty much an identical turn as last time for Superman. He flew next to Becca, he picked her up and chucked her into Romat Rue, who used his once per game energy field to have +2 resistance to physical and energy, so he took no damage from the impact. She, however, took 4, strength -1, and she couldn't give herself the energy shield because it's once per game, so Becca is gone. Romat Rue is going to be pretty tanky for the turn, but I think at this point it's obvious he will not be able to take out Superman and Wonder Woman teaming up on him. So we are going to call the game there in the Justice League's favour, but it was pretty close. So not a bad first showing for the Yellow Lanterns on the table and the channel. A little bit bad that Sinestro went down super quick. I don't think the newer version of him is that tanky, or more tanky than the current version. He's one more level to bring in. I think he has more auras to make Yellow Lanterns better, which might have helped. Maybe the focus was wrong to take out the weakest characters first. Well, maybe not in Green Arrow's case, because he can actually do damage. Batman can do damage once and he's basically done, for the most part. So they probably should have focused Superman or Wonder Woman to have a better chance in the long game. They were playing the short game, not the long game, so leaving the 2 strongest members of the Justice League till last was obviously not a workable strategy, especially once they started chucking everyone around. But I think they did fair, and Romat Rue, sole survivor of the Yellow Lanterns, I honestly thought he was going to go down first because he seemed weak, other than his assassin strike, which was fantastic, but weak defensively. I mean, he ended up being sneaky and letting everyone else go in, and then just snuck up, did a lot of damage, and he gets to live to fight another day. So that is going to do it. We didn't destroy as much of the table as I thought after learning that the Yellow Lanterns are all pretty high agility, but that's okay. There's other ways to clear a table. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you in the future for the next one. Until then, ta-ta for now.